Hey guys, it's Ross going on the Space Coach. Say classics of sci-fi / fantasy for you, and it's Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn trilogy. The first part is this: The Final Empire. Thoroughly loved this series. So let's just look at the back. So what it says: the mists rule the night. The Lord Ruler owns the world. For 1,000 years the ash fell. For 1,000 years the Scar lived in misery and lived in fear. Slaved in misery, sorry. For 1,000 years the Lord Ruler reigned with absolute power and ultimate terror, divinely invincible. Every attempted revolt has failed miserably. Yet somehow hope survives. A new kind of uprising is being planned, one that depends on the cunning of a brilliant criminal mastermind and the courage of an unlikely heroine, a Scar street urchin, who must learn to master allomancy, the power of a Mistborn. What if the prophesied hero had failed to defeat the Dark Lord? The answer will be found in the Mistborn trilogy, a saga of surprises that begins here. Fantastic stuff. This is the best of Brandon Sanderson, the Mistborn and its sequel novels, and Elantris. They're the ones I really, really like. But this, brilliant stuff. Allomancy, it's kind of like using the Force via the use of metals. So I think that what they're called push and pull. So you would maybe push on, say, a metal item, and you could do a leap over. And if you could continue pushing yourself along, you'd be flying in the air. All that sort of stuff. And different metals have different qualities. Some are speed, some are weight, all that sort of thing, and some of them are very, very rare. But yes, so the Lord Ruler has been in charge for 1,000 years, ever since the big climax of the previous era, when everything was going wrong, but it didn't work out properly, and he's been in charge for 1,000 years. Now the mists are gathering again after 1,000 years, and they're very worried about what's going to happen. Can they actually depose the Lord Ruler and take the power of these mists and restore the world, basically, is what they're trying to do. Things are never quite that simple. So the second book is The Well of Ascension, which is where these mists seem to be emanating from. So, evil has been defeated, the war has just begun. They did the impossible, deposing the godlike being whose brutal rule had lasted 1,000 years. And that was fascinating as well, when they realised who the Lord Ruler is, or rather, who he isn't. Now Vin, the street urchin who has grown into the most powerful Mistborn in the land, and Elend Venture, the idealistic young nobleman who loves her, must build a healthy new society in the ashes of an empire. They have barely begun when 3 separate armies attack. As the siege tightens, an ancient legend seems to offer a glimmer of hope. But even if it really exists, no one knows where to find the Well of Ascension or what manner of power it bestows. It may be that killing the Lord Ruler was the easy part. It was the easy part. But that's, I forget what they're called, but they're basically the high priestesses of the Lord Ruler's society. What are they called? Hema? You know the word for blood, like hema and hematite and all. It's like hemalurgy or something is their version of the magic system. But they have iron spikes nailed into them here and there, especially right in here. But by the power of allomancy, it doesn't kill them and it grants them powers. Really terrifying looking creatures. A great creation. And others as well, what they're called kandras, which can, if it consumes the bones of a creature, it will take on the form of that creature. But that then means when you're not seeing that person, you're seeing what killed them, just like every good zombie. So many other things. Vin, she's a great character. Elend was great as well. Kelsier, who was in the first novel, doesn't make out the first novel, gives his life. I think, yes, that's right. He was a great character as well. But yes, basically they just want to try and restore the world, because 1,000 years ago it was all thrown out of sync. All of the mists, the Lord Ruler had wanted to remove the mists, so he used the power of whatever, the mists and all that stuff, to move the planet closer to the star. blinding light scorching everything, has to then have volcanoes erupting, filling the sky with ash to cut out the blinding sunlight, then has to genetically modify everyone on the planet to try and survive in that. That's the sorts of godlike powers you get once every 1,000 years. But it only lasts for a very short time, but in that very short time you can do all this stuff. But the world is in chaos, basically. There's records of where it used to be, star charts and pictures and drawings of plants and animals that no longer exist because of the climate changes, all that sort of thing. So it doesn't conclude in that one. It concludes in this one, the hero of ages. Who is the hero of ages? To end the final empire and restore freedom, Vin killed the Lord Ruler. But as a result, the deepness, the lethal form of the ubiquitous mists, is back, along with increasingly heavy ash falls and ever more powerful earthquakes. Humanity appears to be doomed. Having escaped death at the climax of the Well of Ascension only by becoming a Mistborn himself, Emperor Elend Ventura hopes to find clues left behind by the Lord Ruler that will allow him to save the world. Vin is consumed with guilt in having been tricked into releasing the mystic force known as Ruin from the well. Ruin wants to end the world, and stopping it seems impossible. The conclusion of the Mistborn trilogy fulfills all the promise of the first two books. Revelations abound, connections rooted in early chapters of the series click into place, and surprises, as satisfying as they are stunning, blossom like fireworks. It all leads up to a finale unmatched for originality and audacity, and it was fantastic, and was left wide open for a continuing series of novels, which have happened but set hundreds of years after this. But it is a great trilogy, one of the best magic systems out there. The use of metal for all these different things, and how you can store memories and all that sort of stuff in these specific types of, say, like bronze bracelets and all that stuff, and how you can also store power and speed and weight and all that sort of stuff in these bracelets to burn when you need them. But yeah, a great series, thoroughly recommended. It's my favourite Brandon Sanderson. The other ones that I've had, apart from Elantris, I've really struggled with. Like there's the current one, Skyward. I haven't made much progress on that, so hopefully I will, because it did seem quite interesting. But there's already at least a second book out in that series and probably a third on the way, so who knows what's going to happen, if I'll be able to catch up. But anyway, guys, I just thought I would share with you the Mistborn trilogy, because it is absolutely fantastic, and as a standalone it is incredibly entertaining. Would make a great TV show, it really would. So maybe it will get optioned by someone at some point, but for now, guys, that is just my quick review of the Mistborn trilogy. It's absolutely fantastic. Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content. Leave me a comment or suggestion for what topic you'd like to see discussed, or like the video.